Yep. Okay. Gotta do
Hey,
this.
everybody. We want to welcome you to Heart with Dan and Angela. And we're going to be talking today about the Worldwide Church of God and its offshoots.
Yeah, what the Worldwide Church of God, Truth Seekers, and its Offshoots is my Facebook and group. I have a group also. So YouTube channel, Facebook page, and a group.
Yes.
Worldwide Truth Seekers.
And
Ex-Worldwide Truth Seekers, sorry.
Yeah. And we just want to thank you, Sarah, for coming forward today. I think, and you probably know this, I know you know this, but one of the greatest parts of healing is when we come out of denial, when we can say, this wasn't always, a total good thing, the Worldwide Church of God, or it had a bad side to it. We've interviewed some worldwiders before, or talking to a lot of worldwiders, and so many of them are in denial. When you ask them, when you say, this happened or that happened or this happened, they go, oh, it was wonderful. Oh, it was great. We got to take the good with the bad. Or like the witnesses say, they're just men doing the best they can do. But
making excuses for them.
Yeah, and what we found was that kind of response doesn't promote healing. But what promotes healing is the absolute truth. Can we say the yuck? Can we say, yeah, okay,
Yes.
it did some of this for me, some of this good, brought some order, whatever, but it also did this. And that's what I find most interesting, that a lot of worldwiders are still in denial about that.
Most.
I think there's like some shame or fear there that we don't even realize is there. And sometimes, and fear, like sometimes it's just easier to not talk about it because so many people just it's hard to explain and understand unless you've
you feel like, I guess, like you're tattletaling or something. I remember
you do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, the witnesses, I remember it was like, man, I'm talking about the leadership, the governing body, I still had them held in that high esteem. But I find, honestly, there is no healing without coming out of denial. There isn't. It's the same as a 12-step. Until you can say, I have this problem, blah, blah, blah. We don't get well if we just shove it down. And so many of them do that. So Sarah, thank you for coming forward. And we want to hear your story, and we want to hear it in detail, some of the wounds that being in a cult creates. You know what I mean? And I think you can call it a cult. I mean, it's high control. But tell us. Angela wanted to introduce you. Angela wanted to introduce you.
All right.
Okay.
So today we're interviewing Sara Ahrenholtz, a former Worldwide Church of God attender. Sara began attending the Worldwide Church of God with her mother beginning at age 5. She actually grew up on a farm in Iowa, and then her mother drove her and her siblings, her 2 siblings, an hour or an hour and a half, she thinks it was, one way to go to out of state to Nebraska and go to church at the Worldwide Church of God. And that was 1984, where she began attending with her mother and siblings. Her father never attended the church. Sara had the 2 older siblings who also attended. However, they did keep the holidays like Christmas and all of that, which Sara actually never was able to do. And then, of course, that stopped when her mother started taking them to church. The pastor at that time was Mr. Swaggerty. Sara is the mother of 1 daughter, Isabella, now a grown adult, and currently lives in Oregon. Today, Sara is going to focus on the medical neglect and the resulting effects on our health to the point of death. Many dying in medical neglect due to improper care. And Sara will be sharing just what she experienced and her witness in the Worldwide Church of God. I believe that the first step toward our healing is awareness. Awareness is key. So let's get into this. Welcome, Sara. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you for having this channel for people to tell their story and have a chance to heal. Like Angela said, we joined in 1984. I was 5. I'm the youngest of 2 siblings. My mom actually got a hold of, I believe it was the Plain Truth magazine from my grandma. And then she called the number on there, and they came out to our house and drove. And I remember later telling me she was very impressed by them coming so far. And then I know we started going. Now for me, it's affected all my siblings, obviously. They, I think, have some memories of holidays. I don't. I don't remember celebrating like a birthday or a Christmas, Easter, Valentine's. I don't remember that. Um, now we joined, and I remember, I'm on a blanket, and this was also just very odd. No toys, no coloring books, no nothing. And if you made a sound, then you were taken to the, bathroom and spanked, or I remember being pinched. So it was very weird for a child. You became all of a sudden not a child very quickly. You weren't doing normal things. Somehow had to sit there on this blanket, and you numbed yourself. What else could you do? I'm 5. I
Right,
can't
Sarah.
be even a normal kid. And that was normal. I mean, that was, they didn't want you playing, and so I think that's why I heard more than what my mom maybe realizes I heard too, because I wasn't playing on my blanket.
And Sarah,
Every kid was sitting there.
you talked about the blanket training. And
Yes.
I totally forgot about that. It was barely a remembrance in my mind. But my mom had 6 children and I was the oldest. But when you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I do remember something
What
about
is
it.
that?
And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, did you do blanket training? And anyway, she said, yes, she did. And then so what she said was, because see, I was
It
thinking,
started at birth as well. So
yes,
honestly, I
at
was one
birth,
of the lucky
right.
ones.
So she's,
Yeah, I mean, I was only 5 when I joined. So
yeah,
some kids were getting little smacks on the hand for crying, just for a normal response. They could
right.
be hungry, just, so what it also did was it somehow made the nurturing that a mother normally would give a child, the cult had a way of taking that away and making you not have that bond, I feel like, with your mother, in a sense. Because, I've asked myself, how, why? I think we all do. Like, why? And if you see it normalized with all these other mothers and the kids taking them into the bathrooms and whooping them, it's going to be a little easier for you to maybe disassociate, or as well as a mother, I think, and
No,
be like, well, this is what we're doing. It was spare the rod, spoil the child. Do you remember
I
that?
remember
That
that.
was that
Sir,
was really big saying.
will you tell the audience, because see, not everyone listening is going to be an ex-worldwide or a worldwider. Some are ex-JW, so they don't know what blanket training is. Could you explain what you remember blanket training being? Or can I, or
I
you?
just remembered that, it started very young at birth, and basically anything that a baby would do, they weren't allowed to. They were taken out, and they were supposed to be smacked or spanked and told no, you know. It was very much so, and then it just progressed. Then it became, they taught you to use a wooden paddle or a ping pong paddle, and literally that it wouldn't leave bruises, but you could do what you needed to do, right? But it wouldn't leave bruises on the child. So,
Was that for
I
not
had a,
paying attention? For not paying attention, you had to pay
and I don't even know, that was more at home. I got the wooden, we got the wooden uh
Ping pong
paddle,
paddle.
and even
Mhm.
got broke on our bottoms. And
Yes.
I remember my mom crying while spanking me, and then we had to hug her and tell her we loved her before we could leave the room.
Ooh,
Now tell me, like, she wasn't liking what she was doing, I don't feel like, but that's what
Well,
she was told
and
to
they said
do.
that I spank you because I love you. That's what they
Oh,
would.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
You just reminded me.
yeah,
I'm doing this for your own
there
good,
you go.
I'm doing it because
And
I love
because
you.
I love you. And then also the blanket training, you told me, and my mom had verified it, that they would do it at home to practice for the 2-hour session at
Yes,
church. So my mother
yes.
would set all, we had 6 children, so we'd all have to sit on this big blanket, and she would give the bottles to the babies, and then she'd have the rest of us, kind of take a nap, and she would practice all the time
Yeah,
so
you
that
had to
we would.
practice because you couldn't have toys or coloring books or anything, so that's not normal for a kid to sit there for 2 hours in a sermon,
No, no.
and
And why couldn't
so
you
that's
sit in
why
the
you had to
chair?
practice, and
Right. And then get spanked.
Yeah.
Don't do
Yep.
it. If the kid starts crying, I was the oldest, so I'd have to quick take that kid and comfort it and keep it from crying. And I was allowed to sit in the chair finally. But those children have to sit on the floor at age 5, sitting
That's
on the
crazy.
floor on a blanket.
Yeah.
Sarah, you should have sat on a chair at 5.
Well, Sarah,
Oh, I know. Well, but as soon as you could sit on a chair, guess what? You graduated to a chair as soon as you could start writing notes.
Oh,
And then you
yes.
sat on a chair and then you
That's
wrote notes for
right.
2 hours.
That's
That's
right.
so
right.
it's all about paying
Yeah.
attention to
Oh,
Herbert W.
Yeah.
Armstrong.
So
or
you had to sit
preach.
on that blanket. So, but as soon as you could write and you could write notes, oh, you were up on the chair.
That's right.
So,
Sarah, I forgot.
yep.
That's what I
You
did.
know
That's
something
what I
weird,
did
Sarah?
religiously.
I saw a video, and Angela did too. And it was a video of a church leader, and he was disciplining a boy. And I think he took him over his knee and spanked him. Now, this is
Yeah.
weird. This is
the
really,
audience.
really weird to me, in front of the audience. And then he said, I'm disciplining you. And he spanked him. And then he goes, now let's make up. And he says, give me a kiss. It was like this
He
love.
That sounds like
thing.
my mom. It was like, you just spanked me, but yet I have to now show how much I love you. And we weren't allowed to leave that bedroom until we hugged her and told her that we loved her. It was traumatizing, but it was, and I know it was partly because she didn't want to do it. I don't think really, like, because it was weird. Like I said, she was crying while spanking. Like that just seems odd to
Going
me too,
against her
right?
own nature.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't that seem like it's against her? Like, yeah, like she was like, I don't want to do this, but I have to.
Oh
What?
God.
Like that's how it felt. I mean, she wasn't saying those words, but if your mom's like bawling while spanking you, and then it was a very weird.
What did your dad say?
The thing is it also went quite older. Spanking's usually younger. I'm talking. This went to. I felt inappropriate. My brother and I were too old to get our pants pulled down and still getting whoopings.
Yeah.
So this went on for, I can't tell, quite old, 10, 11.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like I probably went on for a lot of kids even older than that.
Oh, yeah.
But I just remember it.
What'd your dad do? What did he feel? What did he say? he didn't believe, right?
Yeah, he really, really struggled, but I also had, health issues, which we'll get into that, which, down the road. So, but yeah, I remember the blanket training. And you're right. So I had a best friend. I still have her. I'm not gonna say her name, but I'm gonna give her the name Grace because she was my saving grace back then and still is to this day. We talk a lot and we've done, I feel like, a lot of healing actually together the last couple of years and kind of have figured some things out. Like, do you remember this? And I had a traumatizing event happen to me in 2022, and that's for me what sparked me getting into therapy, and all of a sudden I started remembering a lot of events. So this is all pretty recent for me as well, to just start remembering all this stuff. Now another thing, I'm just going to kind of still talk about what it was like growing up. So we had the blanket training. So we had Sabbath was on Saturday, and Sabbath started from sundown Friday till Sabbath started from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, and you couldn't watch TV, do activities, you couldn't run, the adults couldn't work. That affected, money. They weren't allowed to work. I remember, and so what this also did for a child, you have to think of for the social aspect. So I couldn't go out for any sports. If there was a concert, I couldn't go to it. That's on a Friday night, right? Usually all those things. And they did it to ostracize, keep us away from the world, the worldly people, as they would call, and be careful for the demons. Everybody that wasn't felt like in the chosen church cult, was a demon. Watch out for them, kind of thing. And I was also put in the library and principal's offices for holiday events. So say they big Christmas parties, they dressed up for Halloween. Guess where I got put? I didn't get to partake in any of that. I got put in the library principal's office, and That might not seem like a big deal,
Big deal.
but that's when you know you are not the same as everybody else, and everybody knows you're not the same too. You just are odd. You're just an oddball. You stick out in school. A lot of people thought I was gave me happy Hanukkah cards when I got older. So they didn't really understand. You know, you didn't talk about it. Um, but that was really hard. You definitely did some weird talk in your head to yourself. You know, oh, I'm the chosen. I'm, you know, special. And I'm doing this because I'm gonna get the world's gonna end and I'm gonna go to the place of safety in Petra, Jordan. And, you know, if I celebrate these things, then I'm going to die in the lake of fire. That's literally what it was. If you don't know about Worldwide Church of God, the cult, it was a fear based, apocalyptic doomsday cult. It was very, very fear based.
Yes.
That's how they got us to tithe our money. That's how they got us to just kind of get us to, you know, and he used Herbert W. Armstrong was used a lot of the news, and they still do. You know, they use a lot of the news events to scare you, and to tell you the world's going to end, and they'll just keep changing. You know, kept changing when it was going to end and when it was going to end because it wasn't happening. Things like that, you know. But yeah, it was very, 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 very hard as a child. Now here's something that's I tell a lot of people I'm ambidextrous, but I don't really tell them why. So I was already really weird school. I'm left-handed. I write and I eat with my left hand, but I can't really do. I'm injured now in this arm, but back in the day, this was my sports arm. You would have thought I was right-handed. And the reason for that is because I already was stuck out like a sore thumb because of the cold. So I didn't want to ask for special help in PE or certain things because I was left-handed. So I just learned. I learned how to cut with scissors with my right hand. I shot basketball. I do you would think I'm right-handed. And that's why. That's why I learned.
Why did you learn? Why did you learn?
I just never told anybody that because, like,
is it bad?
You don't want to stick out. I was like the only.
Like our daughter is left-handed and she couldn't cut hair, and no one could be able to show her in the salon beauty school how to use her left hand because they all were right-handed, and so everything was all odd. So she could never quite figure it out, and it was really painful for her. And I think she finally got discouraged, and she just was done with it.
Well, that's what happened to me is I learned just how to cut scissors. It was really, really hard. I remember I struggled, but I don't even think they had left-handed scissors. I was in a really small town, really small school too. So when I say I stuck out, I stuck out.
Yeah.
And you know, and I grew up on a farm in the Midwest. So, you know, it was definitely very hard. And then you would
lived on a farm. She lived on a farm.
Yeah.
So did your school friends live on farms?
Some of them, and then some of them lived in town as well. So, you know, I didn't have my friends were my brother and sister, and then it was also people that went to the church. And then what you would do is like in the summertime that you'd stay at one for like a week, and then you'd meet them at the next Saturday and return the kid kind of. So those were the interactions. Like, you know, if I got invited to a birthday party, I couldn't go, you know, and mine wasn't celebrated. So that was also more depressing than you can imagine because it's the birth of yourself, but yet you're not allowed to celebrate it. So I think it's a way to strip your self identity and for you to know you're not worthy and not feel self-worth and feel yeah, and the mom kind of does that too. They make you feel like that too because of the weird bonding they have going on. So you know right away, God's ahead of her. You know, don't bother her. She's in the bedroom and she's down on her knees doing Bible study for 2 hours. You know, you could have an emergency. Don't interrupt her. You know, you better be dying. You know, so we would be hungry, but we couldn't interrupt mom. You know, she was Bible studying.
Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say.
I was gonna interject something here.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're doing great. Can I just go back to the Sabbath? I get
Absolutely.
hammered by worldwiders over the Sabbath. I mean, when Saturday comes, or if I'm working, people will say, that's the Sabbath. We have to keep it holy. Now, I was going to ask you this. Does
Yeah.
not keeping the Sabbath mean that the people in the world that don't keep the Sabbath are going to die? Is that the teaching in Herbert W.
Yeah, yep,
Armstrong?
I believe that's part of
Okay.
it. Yeah, the whole thing. Yep. And we didn't believe in like the Trinity. So
Yes.
like I remember we couldn't wear crosses and like, it was just
Yeah. So
it
I want
was
to ask
rough.
a question. So here was my question to the worldwiders when they come up with, oh, you don't keep the Sabbath. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. If you don't do this, keep the holy days. I don't want to hear anything you say. That is my grounding. That is my compass. That is my way. Okay. But then I
Yep.
asked this question. What about those who have to work on Saturday? Firemen, hospital people, if it comes to saving a life on the Sabbath. Now, check this out. It
Yeah.
is a law according
Yeah.
to this religion, according to this Jew. Now they somehow, this is weird. This is a conundrum. Somehow, the worldwiders justify the firemen working and this working. They can't justify me working, but they can
Yeah.
justify the hospitals working. They can adjust. Oh, well, there's a reason for that. No, there is no reason. According
Yeah.
to
No.
faith,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I remember there was no reason. There was no reason, not even a doctor or, and they really we medically we didn't support doctors, so
Oh,
that could be
Oh,
physically or mentally. So if you like I just recently started medicine for the first time. I got diagnosed with ADHD at 45. So
yeah.
you know
Before we get into
yeah,
medical, can we just real quick go to the birthdays? I
yeah,
remember what my question was.
yes,
Can you remind all of us how the world why use the Bible to say that we cannot celebrate birthdays? And my mother was also all about that. Well, it will bring pride, and and so in other words, we should have no worthiness, no
that's
self-esteem.
exactly right. That's how I
Self-esteem is like
remember
a
it
dirty
then.
word.
yeah. Pride
It
is
was
It's
like
before a
you were
fall.
pride. Yeah,
special, more special than God, or you were like just celebrating yourself as
yes, pride was before
yeah,
a fall. Yeah, and that
you weren't worthy of it. Yeah,
and so
exactly.
we should not puff ourselves up with pride. I remember
Yes.
saying that. So, but
Yep.
what was the scriptural passage they used to say we can't celebrate birthdays?
Oh, I cannot remember it exactly, but I
I do.
know
I
that there
remember
was a
one.
scripture they used.
There was. I remember one of them, and it was the birthday of Lot's children. No, yeah, yeah, no, it was a Lot. Um, the one that had those sons, and they were always like partying together, and then they were killed. And wasn't it something to do with
Well,
those
there's also John the Baptist. John the Baptist's head was cut off on a
Job's
birthday,
kids?
right?
Yeah, Job's kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I'd forgotten about that. I'd forgotten about that.
it was to do with Job's sons. Remember, they were always
Yes.
partying all the time, and it seemed like the world. I remember something about that. They were probably celebrating birthday, but they were celebrating, and they were killed. I remember something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
his
was a story that they used and a scripture, like just to put that fear into you to not celebrate it. And as well, that was really depressing as a kid. And like I said, it did something to like your identity of yourself
it did.
and your worth. It really did make
Yes,
you
it did.
feel not important.
Right.
Um,
It
you
sure did.
felt the reason you felt special is because you were chosen in the cult.
Right.
And you were the one that was going to know when to go to the place of safety, Yeah.
Yeah, talk about your
So,
fear about that you were afraid that when you would leave to go do something, that you're afraid that somehow you would
oh, I
miss.
still have it. I
Okay,
still
talk about
have it.
that. Talk about what that's like.
Um, yeah. So I actually, and I don't know, I guess I just thought everybody did this. I had a bag packed from time I was 5 with clothes, a book, and a toy. I was always ready to go.
Protect your
Um,
place of safety.
to the place of safety. I also think I really
With
struggled
the
with
world.
going to school just in general because I was always scared we were going to get the news when I was at school. And I wanted to be with my mom, you know? Like I just remember I wanted to be at home when we got the news. So I did struggle and I think I started having health issues just even just because of all that and what it does to the stress and the fear. And in therapy, she said, my dear, I think you have been in fight flight mode since you were 5
Wow.
because of, like the fear I had of, having a bag packed and all this stuff. Um, so
I think
she,
witnesses have adopted this. I do. I think
No, I think
Jehovah's
we
Witnesses.
adopted it
No,
from
no, no,
you.
no, no,
No?
no. Jehovah's Witnesses have now adopted this because now they're fleeing. They're packing
oh
bags.
my
They have,
goodness.
yeah, they're running fire drills in the hall, evacuation drills right now, and they have a to-go
Wow.
bag. So I'm thinking that Jehovah's Witnesses have now adopted, they don't call it Petra, but they're fleeing to the place of safety in the
FEMA camp.
woods, FEMA camps.
Yeah. Very similar, place
Movie,
of safety.
They have movies
Yep.
showing, you're fleeing with some people taking their things, which they discourage, to show up at the FEMA camp, and then you're going to be there until Jehovah tells you that it's okay to go to do
Oh
whatever.
yeah. And then I think we would be the teachers for the other people, right? As in the
whatever.
place of safety.
Yes.
Like, for the it was it's a lot, and it's crazy how they reel you in. I think it's definitely on people, and that's what makes me really sad is it's lonely, usually depressed people looking for friendship, things like that. And
Don't fit
so
in,
these
you don't fit
cults really prey on wonderful, big-hearted, genuine people. So everybody's like, I think that's another thing. It's the shame. That's why people don't want to talk about it, because it's like, how could you be in a cult? Like, how could that even happen? Well, a lot easier than you think, actually.
right. How about if
Yeah.
you're born into it, pretty much? Like, you and I.
Yeah, if you're born into it, exactly, and there's a lot of adults that get pulled in there, so Herbert W. Armstrong was in advertising first, so he was good at his job, very, very good at it. He used all of our tithe money for his booklets, his 2 magazines,
Radio,
so he
TV.
used all of our tithes that we did, and there was lots and lots of tithes, 3 tithes, I think.
Yeah, well, every 7 years. I can't remember how many. I have it somewhere, but every so many years, I think it's 7 maybe, you have to pay a third tithe, which is extra money for the widows.
Uh-huh.
First tithe is your 10% off the top of everything that you earn. The second tithe is supposed to be for the Feast of Tabernacles, which is a holy day that's done once a year. And so we would save 10% for that. And you must save that. It's law. And then the third tithe to take care of the widows every so many years. And so it would rotate who is somebody.
What about the one where you got to give them all your money at the end of the celebration?
They would just say, if you have any leftover money and you're not going to need it for traveling back home, put it all in, for the God's work. So they got a lot.
Well, and I think I had shared with you, I found an old lesson plan, and it was like probably, I think it would have been for kindergarten or first. So we had these lesson plans that were very, very stressful. And I felt like they were before homework even, and you had to memorize stuff that was really stressful as well. And well, at the end of one, and it showed a kid, and it showed him how to tithe correctly with your dimes and nickels and pennies and how much that would be. And I was just like, wow. And I kind of remembered it as I was, because all these things that you're saying is being copied, it's all online. So it'd be very easy to do and tweak it a little bit and say you came up with it. All the booklets, there's a website that has all the old sermons, books, lesson plans. I go on there, but I have to be careful how much time I spend on there because it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it was hwalibrary.com. hwalibrary.com. Yeah.
Yes. So that is has everything that I grew up with, and yeah.
The witnesses are adopting that too. We never used to have children giving their money. Now the children are being told to put their pennies. It's the same thing. They're copying.
Yeah.
I'm telling
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Well, I remember if I ever did get money, I tithed it. Like, I don't, I felt like, and it was a really big thing. Like, you felt very proud to tithe the way that they, projected. If you remember at the Feast of Tabernacles, they'd always make a really big deal of how much money they brought in. And I remember just feeling so proud I was a part of that. Um, the Feast of Tabernacles, was probably the favorite of most people. That's where you got to go on a trip, and that was the one I enjoyed the most. I got to see my best friend there. I looked forward to that.
Yeah.
But
And our parents had extra money to go
you
on
went to
that.
the Feast of Tabernacles thinking you were in school for maybe about 2 weeks, and then you got pulled out and you were taken away for 10 days, and church all day, long for all those days, and some fun stuff in between. But that also,
So can I talk about that? Because that was
yeah.
really cool. So you guys, I want to reiterate what you said. School starts, for us, it was September 15th-ish. No, yeah. And then come October, literally just weeks away, it's time to go to the Feast of Tabernacles. So we would have to go to our public school teachers and tell them
Yes, we would.
the Jewish holy day that we have to attend according to God's laws, and that we need special treatment. Imagine this in high school, to get homework from them, and so we don't fail our classes for missing school for about 10 days for most of us. So it was 2 weeks, because if you travel to another country or you had to drive a long way to go to this, because we get to go where you want. There's all over the
Yep.
they're all over the
We
world.
usually went to South Dakota is where we went.
So how many days drive was that?
I don't remember. Like, I think at least it was maybe 2.
2 days.
So it wasn't horrible. But I remember we'd have big signs. We must have brought a lot of money to that town, so you felt special. Like, they'd be like, "Welcome, Worldwide Church of God," and we would have feast stickers on the back of your cars. So, you would be traveling, and then you wave at the other people because you knew they knew who you were. Oh, there's a part it was the one place you didn't feel weird. Let's put it that way. You were surrounded by, thousands of other people. You felt a little normal at the feast, I guess, because you saw so many other people doing the same thing you were doing, because you didn't have that in school. So yeah, that's when do you make friends? In the beginning of school, right? That's when you kind of make the cliques and you make the friendships. And that's when really the foundation of school is set. So
yeah,
I think I was okay when I was younger, but as I got older, I really, really struggled, and my grades did, with catching back up.
Right. And the teachers
were not nice to you about getting that homework.
10 days?
Yeah, that's about how long we were. Just because the whole feast was 8 days. And
Yep.
And because the last great
And then there's traveling.
And then the traveling time. So you'd have to get back.
It could even be 14 for some, because you're traveling. So that's 2 weeks of school. That's a lot of school to miss. That's a lot of time.
If you miss a day of school, it feels like you're a month behind sometimes, let alone.
So you can only imagine, like, when I was younger, it was fairly easy. But as it got older, I missed, still to this day, I've missed like a lot of foundation stuff, or just stuff I feel like I don't know. Like, and people's looking like, how do you not know that? I always feel like it must have been when I was at the feast, or when I was out sick,
or so
because I missed a lot for sickness.
Because when you get back, you feel like everybody's judging you, and your teacher's looking at you like you're such a piece.
Oh, and they are. They totally are. They're like, "Oh, she's back. Where have you been?" And it's weird. And
unlike disrespect to the teacher.
Yeah.
Well, and then you get back, and then guess what? Then it's holiday. So then it's Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas back to back when you get back.
Yeah.
So then I feel like that's another reason why they did it, and shoved all that stuff down you, because you're about to, all those holidays, coming back, and everybody's excited from Christmas break, telling everybody what they got. Oh, what'd you get? Oh, I don't celebrate Christmas. You just really had to like numb yourself.
Yeah.
I remember just kind of being like this, I don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
You just kind of had to sit there on those days and kind of internally, I don't know what you did internally, but you had to do something to survive, because you were the only one that you couldn't fit in. You couldn't talk about that.
It was terrible. Like, okay, so you go to a band class. I played clarinet, and I'm 2 weeks behind everyone else. And they've all been working every day for 2 weeks on this music. and I'm suddenly 2 weeks behind. And to catch up means countless hours at home practicing your clarinet when your mom is demanding you do all these other things, and you got
lesson plans and
other homework besides. And so you just are never as good as everyone else. You can never be first chair. Means that you're the best.
That's exactly how it feels. So a perfectionism, I think, can come. Well, I think a lot of people can struggle with that perfectionism because of just so much they put on you, and you're never good enough. You know, you never are.
Well,
Even if you're perfect, have straight A's, or you're still not good enough.
Well, then in my senior year in high school, we had a lot of marching band. Oh, I miss so much. And then my mother, well, my teachers, when I come back, then it would be just so discombobulated where I was an editor of my school newspaper, and now I don't know what's going on. I don't know where we're at. I don't know I just feel so traumatized by, I'm the editor of my school newspaper and I don't know what's going on. And I try to catch, like, how do you catch up that? And it's really uncomfortable. I'm supposed to be in charge of something, and I haven't been.
Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. I completely understand. And nobody else can. It's so traumatizing.
It was.
And it really was. And yep.
So
and you're sticking out or being odd, trying to play catch up of homework, and you still have your weekly lesson plans and all the memorization.
Right. I mean, beginning of the school year, like she said, and then 1 month later, I'm leaving for 2 weeks. I'm the editor of my school newspaper, and then I'm coming back, and they're all looking at me like, "Where the H have you been?"
Oh man.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you got attitude because you're like supposed to be there.
Yeah. Where's the respect from the teacher?
So then you lost a lot of respect because of
a lot of respect. And my own self-esteem is severely damaged because I'm an organized person. But Sarah, can you just talk about that perfectionism that comes from this? How does that come about because of this way we have to live? Can you tell me what you've learned?
Actually, I feel like I saw that a little bit more in my sister. She was the oldest. So I really feel like she was affected by that. Being the perfect older, she had a lot of pressure put on her I feel like she was more motherly to me. Like, she was who I went to and still is. Like, she kind of was my mom more back in the day then. She had to watch me and my brother, so, and they were just really strict with her. And I feel like she's the one that struggled with trying to be that perfect older sister, perfect child.
Well, oddly, the Worldwide Church of God tells you, the parents, to train you that way, that the oldest is the example. So they would drill into my head, being the oldest, that you are the example. You're setting the example for your brothers and your sisters.
Yes.
Responsibility.
So I feel like that really fell on her.
It did me too.
Me, I feel like they tried to beat it out of me and never could.
Oh, thank God.
I'm stubborn.
Yay.
That's how I feel. I feel like both, they tried.
Too. I don't know why.
I remember my mom telling me, I prayed for patience. I prayed to God for patience, and He gave me you. Like, that's what my mom.
Hey, I bet it was hard. Was it hard when you got back from the feast, or what is that what they call it? Tabernacles feast?
Yeah.
Was it hard to go to school and explain what happened? Did you have anybody say, "Hey, what was it?"
Oh, yeah. And how do you explain that? I don't even remember really what I said. I think I remember, I think you were kind of told what to say, but I don't even remember what that was. We were at a church event, something. It was just something like that is all you said. You did. You never went in detail. Oh, never. People might have known, like, even later in life, that I was in a cult, but I had never, ever talked about it. People never, even my best friends, besides my best friend I grew up in it with, my other ones, they are just now learning. They're like, wow, Sarah, and there's lots of layers to you. I said, yeah, they're just learning now, because I'm just finally expressing what happened.
Could you imagine, Sarah, if you told them the truth? You said, well, actually what happened was we were celebrating, and we were celebrating that we're the only ones and that God's going to genocide everybody any day. And then we left Herbert W. We partied, and then we left Herbert W. Armstrong all of our money. Could you imagine?
Right? Well, you know what you did? I don't know if you did this, Angela, but I remember sitting in school and thinking, I really like these people. It's really sad, they're not going to come and they're going to die in the lake of fire. And not only that, if your dad wasn't in there, now I didn't love my dad any less, but you looked at him different. He didn't come to church. So I feel like that's why like my mom was really good friends with my best friend, was because her dad also wasn't in the church. So we were looked at a certain way because we weren't a family unit. My mom was technically the head of household.
Yeah, divided.
Yep. So we were always a divided, almost felt divorced before divorced because, yeah, my
We were all
dad really,
together.
really
We weren't all
struggled with
together.
that too.
So there's
And
something going on, so let us
yeah, I think maybe that's why I think I told you so. I was just telling my friend, she goes, no, she said, Sarah, that's weird. So the events that we'd get taken to, so Christmas, we would go. And I think that must be because my dad maybe didn't want us to miss out on like our cousins and aunts and uncles, right? But then what would happen is when they would open gifts, me and my siblings, we would have to go sit at the top of the stairs or we'd sit underneath the stairs while they would do that. So that really messed with you. So we would be there at these events, but yet
Easter, all of it.
couldn't, yeah, but would, yeah. So, and, so any event,
wouldn't even know anything about what goes on because her dad would be the one to encourage her to go because he wasn't in the church. So her mother would be forced kind of to take it against her will, kind of, and then
I bet she was, yeah.
watch everything that was going on. But at least they knew what was happening in the world that they were missing out on. For many of us, we would only hear when we got back to school the Christmas presents everybody got, but you'd want to say, well, I went to the Feast of Tabernacles and we got gifts and we went horseback riding and we went down a canoe and we went to really nice meals and we went to church every day and it was wonderful and I made new friends. We couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that because they're thinking, well, wait a minute. I kind of know that you don't keep Christmas, but you're exchanging or you're getting gifts from your parents in this October.
So it was Christmas only different.
Right. But you couldn't.
Yeah, it was like that was our Christmas, was the feast.
Yeah,
that's when we got the gifts. You're absolutely right.
Were you guys the only ones? Would you say in worldwide that they teach that they're the only ones, like Seventh-day Adventists keep the Sabbath, but would they be including in those who live, or was the worldwiders at that time or their offshoots? Are they still teaching, or did they teach that they're the only ones who will live because of the way they worship? Are they the only ones?
They're the only ones. And there are lots of offshoots. So there are some offshoots. I can't remember if it's United Church of God, but there are some that they are exactly what they go by Herbert W. Armstrong. And then there's some I think that go by Joseph W. Tkach because he changed a few things. We could celebrate birthdays and we could wear makeup. Those were the two main things I remember that he changed.
And you didn't keep the Sabbath anymore.
You didn't? Okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it was very different. It was kind of Christianized. And that was their goal. I feel that they want to become Christianized because it will keep them from lawsuits. That's what I think.
Now, are they divided against themselves, or does each of them think?
Yeah, that's what divided really what broke up the church when Joseph W. Tkach did that. That's when people just they couldn't. We've believed all this for this long, and you're just gonna say that this is all a lie now. Some people there's no way they're gonna go along with that. So what happened is these ministers broke off and then they started their own cults. So I joke, it's not funny though, but I tell my daughter, you have, you get a choice now in my cult. You can go to this one and do what I did, and you can go to this one and celebrate certain things. Like you get a choice now. Yeah. Now, so you can't have pork, no pork or seafood either is a real big one.
That's right. Now, what happened to your brother and sister? What'd you tell me that what happened to them? Are they still in?
Yeah, no. So none of my family is in it anymore. That is actually how my brother met my sister-in-law, though, was at a feast. So her family, she still has a lot of family that is in the cult. My sister-in-law. And like my best friend, she does as well. So I still,
You're very
I
much
don't know. It's
involved.
still kind of, yeah.
Yes.
You don't totally get away from it, I guess, in a way.
No, I don't with my
Yeah.
mother. My mother's still in there very much so, and her husband, and my dad became a Seventh-day Adventist. And so he understands grace quite a little bit, but yet still is under the law. It's really weird. He says he's in grace, but yet he's keeping the Sabbath day, and you better keep it, and you better keep it all. It's kind of, anyway, whatever. He's much more filled with grace than he was ever before, which I'm very grateful for.
Oh, yes,
And my
yes.
brothers and sisters are heavily affected, but they don't know it. And then I ended up getting into a secondary cult that one of my sisters anyway was in with me. Well, two of them, but anyway, that's kind of a weird thing. Anyway, I forgot where I was going to go with that, but anyway, yeah. So, but
Yeah, no, I don't, I think we're
all.
all just kind of maybe starting to realize it, actually, me and my siblings. Um, I've actually reached out and talked to my sister a lot, and she's been great, and she actually remembers a lot. So there was some I was kind of like unsure, like, so she's the one that helped me remember. I asked before the call so that it was Mr. Swaggerty at first, and then it became Terry Johnson was the second minister that we had. So she can sometimes fill in the gaps for me. Am I remembering this right? Which is really nice. So I am glad that I do have that, and that I feel like has been good on healing.
Sorry, how
Just
long have you been
talking
out?
with my siblings.
How long have you been
too.
out now?
Let's see. I left when I was like 15.
When you're 15, okay.
Yep. And it was under, really, like, I think we're going to do 2 episodes. So I'll more talk about that, like my kind of exit to freedom.
So we have 10 minutes.
Yeah. And well, and I can just
the
touch base kind of.
medical, right?
I want to talk about like the Days of Unleavened Bread real quick was
okay.
another really
All
weird
right.
one.
Well, let's do 3
where-
episodes, okay? Let's talk
Yeah.
about medical on this next one, and let's go.
Yeah, I'm fine with that because I
just-
don't want to go too fast.
Yeah,
you know?
I want to hear this leavened bread.
Okay, let's hear the unleavened bread. Okay.
That was such a chaotic, crazy time of year. If you remember that, Angela, it was.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! You had to clean your whole house of any leavening, any bread, so baking soda, cream of tartar, whatever. And I'm talking attics, cupboards,
couch.
Your whole everything.
All cupboards.
So if I'm remembering this right, the leavening represented sin in your life, right?
Yeah.
And so you had to get all the sin out of your house.
Right.
Like a piece of bread?
That's a lot of crumbs.
Well,
you were on your hands and knees scrubbing all in your house. I mean, all the kids were, the adults. It was
everywhere.
It was chaotic. You had to scrub the whole house from
behind
basically
the refrigerator,
Don't leave a crumb behind, or you'll burn in the lake of fire.
Right.
I never heard of this.
Yeah. We had to clean. It took the refrigerator to be taken out.
Oh
The
my
couch
God.
had to the stove had to be removed. Get every crumb out of
every crumb.
What's crumbs got to do with it? What's crumbs got to do with it?
A sin puffs up.
A piece of crumb off a piece of bread. You're talking bread crumb.
So supposedly the leavening represented sin in your life. And then I can't remember how long it was, but we couldn't eat anything with leavening. So we ate the matzo crackers with butter on them.
Faceless pieces of crap.
Oh yeah. So we had to eat I don't know, bread, but it didn't have remember
Flat
Mom
bread.
would make this weird bread, but it wasn't like bread because it couldn't have the stuff in it, and she put applesauce on top or something.
Right. So the Israelites left Egypt, and they had to quickly make the bread, and there was no leavening it, but it was God said to do it that way. And then they went across, anyway, that was one of the reasons that there was a whole period of time when it's Passover and we don't have any bread, and that's to, I don't know, somehow I don't remember what the scripture was about it represented sin, but there had to have been, but I don't remember.
There was. I can't either, and I'm sure there was a scripture behind it.
Sure.
And but one year I remember, we're scrambling around, and all of a sudden my mom realizes she didn't clean the toaster.
Oh,
so, she threw the whole toaster out.
Oh,
my God.
That caused a big, my dad was, we didn't have a lot of money. We were poor. And she just threw the whole perfectly good toaster out. Oh my gosh, I didn't clean the toaster. It's got to go.
Because of the crumbs.
Because of
the crumbs in it.
Because she'll have to clean it out with her hands, and it's a lot of work. So I'm dead
serious. I remember that caused a big argument in the house. Of course, why wouldn't it? You threw away perfectly good toaster over your
Yes.
weird
that
cold.
your dad uses every day.
This is shocking. I can't even imagine. Honestly, I can't. Grab the toaster.
Yeah.
Throw out the toaster. There's crumbs.
This
Don't
sin,
touch
sin.
that.
I know, and that can you
Yeah, a
A
imagine? It
crumb
was so
fell on the
chaotic.
counter. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
the sin.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
insanity. This is
So what are you gonna
insanity,
say,
guys.
Sarah?
Well, and you had lesson plans also to explain, I'm sure back then, and to really
Solidify.
why you're doing this and why
Right,
it's so
solidify,
important.
solidify.
So we had lesson plans and stuff, really, putting this in our brain, how
Yes.
important this was to do this and why we needed to do it.
Yes.
I just don't remember quite everything, but I know that it was definitely backed up, by sermons and lesson plans. That was a really weird one. Now I guess this would be a good one to end on, I think. And this was my worst one. And then the next one, we can kind of go into more of the medical stuff.
Yeah, I wanna hear
So the worst one for me was Day of Atonement. Day of Atonement, we had to fast and not drink water for 24 hours.
Sundown to sundown.
Yep.
What if you're thirsty? What if you're a little kid and you're thirsty?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I was 5, and they don't force you, but there is so much pressure
Oh.
that I don't know how to word it right. So much pressure of, how would you put it, Angela, to rite of passage per se, or something. So by the time you were 5, so when I joined, I was doing it. I think it was 5 was a pretty common age. Would you say they started having the kids fast?
Yeah. That's about right.
So I remember doing it right when I joined. And so I couldn't eat or drink water for 24 hours. And I remember getting violently ill. Like I would throw up out in the parking lot, but yet I couldn't. If I drank a sip of water, you were sinning. No, you couldn't though.
Right.
Yeah, if you drank, you couldn't. Yeah.
Weird. I had no idea.
Yeah. So do you think it was probably a psychological fear because you couldn't? Or do you think that
No, I know if you ate or drank anything, like, I think the same thing. You were going to die in the lake of fire. There was a certain reson why you were doing that Day of Atonement.
I don't mean that. I just mean that. Why do you think you got violently sick? That's what I mean.
Oh, I really don't know. I think it's just from the nausea of not eating and not having fluids. And so I think it just made me really sick, because I remember one other kid, it was a boy, and he would always throw up too. And I remember us both being in the parking lot, always throwing up on Day of Atonement.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
I wonder.
Some people got sick, afterwards when they would eat again. But for me, it was during the process. And I mean, you have a young little growing kid that you're forcing not to eat or drink for 24 hours.
That ain't right.
That is not okay. That is so unhealthy for a growing child. And it's so traumatic. And I believe it has had a big play in a lot of my stomach issues that I've had, developed over the years. My mom, now when I started developing stomach issues these last couple of years, and I got diagnosed with diverticulitis, then my mom said, yeah, you always had stomach issues. You always complained about your stomach. Now, we didn't get taken to doctors though. I know I did a few times, so I was maybe one of the lucky ones actually. But you didn't take aspirin, you didn't take anything for any pain. If you got ill,
thinking about it.
if you got ill, so say you had a fever, or anything, so I had strep throat. I didn't get taken to the doctor. The minister.
Let's save this part for next time. Definitely get into medical, and I want to put all this on the medical part.
But that's kind of how that's kind of I think the last crazy of the Holy Jewish kind of holidays, I guess, also as well, that we celebrated.
And also too, let's see, we got 4 minutes. Well, the whole thing about not being able to eat pork. And, you couldn't be like your friends. So you go to grandma and grandpa's house and they serve pork and beans, right? Oh,
hot dogs. Guess what? Everybody has hamburgers and hot dogs.
Why can't you eat pork?
Unclean animal and anything with a split hoof is
Yep.
unclean. Am I
Right.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Right. And
So
anything
anything with a split hoof is supposedly unclean.
So how about like
Um,
gloves, when you put on leather gloves that come from pig, they call it pig skin or foot.
yeah.
It seemed like that would be unclean too, to put on a glove and sweat in it and have the pig, out of the glove
Yeah.
going into your skin. But you guys could wear gloves and leather, pig leather and stuff,
Yeah. I don't think that was ever,
baseball
that wasn't
gloves.
ever a thing, but we couldn't eat it.
No, and
And
we couldn't have
now this
gelatin
is
on
one
it.
that really sticks out. That was horrible to me. I didn't have, might not seem like a big deal, but in marshmallows, there's gelatin. You can't have that.
Right.
So
Same
I
with
could
Jell-O.
never have a s'mores.
No,
I
but
didn't
you
taste
have
my
Jell-O,
first
no
s'mores
Jell-O.
till I was an adult.
Why
Yeah.
marshmallows? What are
It
they?
has lard in it.
Gelatin or something in it,
Oh, horse
something
hoofs.
pig.
Gelatin has horse hoofs in it. Split hoofs, horse
Oh,
hoofs.
that's made out
Okay.
of horse
I heard
hoofs.
gelatin has horse hoofs in it.
Right.
I mean, this
Okay.
is like crazy, guys. This is like science fiction. The gelatin has
Yeah.
horse hoofs in it.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's like
there's
crazy.
a lot of things we couldn't have.
Crumbs and
And even the little piece of pork that's in the pork and beans. See, you could just take that and throw it out, right? But oh no, it's gonna be
Oh, no.
somehow permeated into the
that's what I
juice.
meant about the
Oh,
glove.
yeah.
The pork. The gloves, the pork, the leather seemed like that would seep into your skin. You're sweating and working in them, so it seemed like that would be just as unclean as
Like it would, yeah, it's just cut out
You're not eating
everything.
the
Like where,
gloves.
yeah,
No.
yeah, you would think so. But it was just the food. I can't remember why seafood.
Yeah, no, that had to do
Bottom
with
feeders.
bottom feeders. If they're eating, they're eating our trash, like they're dirty. They're dirty.
That's right.
They're
That's
not supposed
right.
to eat that. But
So same. I
yeah.
also I never had any seafood till I was adult, even though I got
Me neither.
out.
Me
Yeah,
neither.
yeah.
Not until I was,
Yeah.
let's see now, I was 20, no, 20, 23, I guess. Before I ever had it. And guess what happened? The weirdest thing. I was having my anniversary with my former husband, and we went to the Cherry Creek Broker, fancy restaurant, and they served us shrimp and shrimp cocktail.
Yummy.
And
Yum.
it tasted, it tasted pretty good. But that night we got violently sick.
Oh, no.
And so because there was food poisoning, apparently somehow the sauce, they say usually it's the sauce. And so we were so sick, I thought we were gonna die. And so we were both so sick, and he's running to the store, even though he's deathly sick,
Oh, no.
and getting the Pepto-Bismol and 7-Up and whatnot. And I didn't know what to do about it. I'd never been sick. And so we survived, but I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not eating any of this.
I was gonna say, did that mess with you thinking
Yes,
that?
it did.
I bet you're like, oh my
God,
gosh.
God did
like,
that. God did that. I
I
said,
got this. This happened to me, and I've had some really bad self-talk that I'm realizing now that I'm doing subconsciously from the cult, just
Yeah.
stuff like
I was
that.
gonna
Like,
ask
oh,
something.
this is happening to me now still because I'm not in there.
right.
You know,
That's
I'm
it.
doing this.
That's it.
It's
Same with that
weird.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Could these be? I'm just saying this now. She was vomiting at certain points. You vomited.
I did.
Well, when you ate the pork or
Oh, when
the
I ate the
seafood,
seafood.
and your brother
Yeah.
vomits when he eats pork.
That's my mother does too.
Yeah,
She
they
gets
both
sick.
vomit when
Well,
they eat.
my mom
And I
gets sick.
wonder if this is a program that they've installed their religious ideal program, and subconsciously
Well,
you're rejecting the food.
Oh, that could be.
that could
I
be
I wouldn't be
sick.
surprised. It's amazing what our brains can do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It is the first time I've had it, but I could, and so that I could easily see that making
Me
you
too.
sick just
Yeah,
on that.
in that case, so my ex was not a believer.
No, not
but
your ex, Dave, your
my
brother.
brother, yeah, I know, but I got sick from
Oh.
true food poisoning.
Oh, okay.
Which it can happen.
Well, you
right?
sinned
But-
against
yeah.
God.
But what are the odds, right?
Of
My very
course, your
time,
first time.
And so you can bet it was a long
Always
time
the first
before I
time.
ever tried that again. You know what I mean?
That makes
Well, the first time, me and my mom, I'm pretty sure we were together. We did it. We flew out to California for the first time, and then we went to a fancy restaurant, and we had, I think it was mussels and stuff.
Oh,
And I remember my
Yeah.
stepdad was cracking up at me and mom because
That'd be
we were saving like the mussels, like,
I mean-
oh, this is cool, like we wanted to take it home.
You're so good, huh?
I think we saved like the mussel shells, like it was. It's so gross, right? But it was
Not a good
also
idea.
new
They
to
get
us.
old quick.
It was new to us. We were like, this is so cool. Like,
Your
so
dad,
weird now,
your
but
dad was
yeah.
laughing his head off, don't you know it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's definitely now, because you definitely don't just start celebrating everything. I
No,
know that once we
no,
even quit,
no.
it's still weird. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. Now
Um,
tomorrow is Easter,
yeah.
everybody. Tomorrow is Easter. And how are you, what do you do on Easter now? What are you gonna do?
Well, let's see. I actually, just nobody's in it. So I'm going to my brother's, but I think the kids did some type of Easter egg hunt today. And then we're just kind of hanging out and just doing whatever family. And we made sure we decided, I think we're definitely having pork.
Gotta make up for lost
I
time.
actually just joked. I was like, yes. I was like, we're all gonna burn in the lake of fire. Like I have a I kind of have to joke with these things, you have to
You're right.
find a
No, you
silver
do.
lining and a way to laugh at the
True.
craziness.
True.
I'm scared
Um,
now. I'm scared to eat
so
pork.
yeah, yeah. So we are very happy. We're all gonna eat pork tomorrow. I don't of some kind.
Yeah, some ribs or something.
Some
Pork
sort of
ribs.
ham, some
Really
sort of
can't.
Yeah, we're embracing, not having to constrict to that rule. Yeah.
I'm so
So
glad I get to have you, Sarah, because when we put this out onto the station, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, all that, I usually get hammered with these people saying, "You rebellious, piece of crap," because and they give me all the things the scripture has to say, and I'm like, dude, you don't have to be on my station. You don't have to be on my Facebook page. You can go elsewhere. Why do you have to pick
why?
on me? You chose to come to my channel. If you want to get well, stay on my station. But if you don't, and you just want to attack me, bye-bye. I don't care.
Yeah.
Go away. And I have my reasons. I have done my research. I have my reasons for doing what I do. I'm not just rebellious. I have done my research and I have done my praying and I have done my heart searching and all of it. And so, they don't have any place to judge me, but they do.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like-
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to judge. And what this is, I think, something I've realized recently, a good note to leave on is, what happened to all of us, to happen to you, Dan, Angela, anybody that's in these cults. And if anything like this is sounding familiar, you might be in a cult, not even know it.
Hey.
That has happened to other people too. They're like read about, oh my God, oh, there goes our name, Worldwide Church of God, not knowing they were in a cult. So none of this was our fault. What happened to this? None of this was our fault. We are not to blame. We shouldn't feel any shame or fear. All that's our responsibility is to heal, and that's however that looks to you.
Amen.
And everybody's different how they're going to find it. Maybe that's a group, a support group. Maybe it's telling your story, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's therapy. So I think that's really important, is just people know that this wasn't your fault what happened to you.
Right.
And I'm sorry that it did.
I
I know how much it hurts. I know how painful it is. I know how it follows you still to this day. But we're here to let you know you're not alone.
Amen. Amen.
Right?
Well
You're
said,
not alone.
good ending.
And we're looking forward, Sarah, to the next two.
Yes, me
this
too.
is episode 1 of 3, right?
Yes, 1 of 3.
And we're
Yeah,
gonna
that sounds great.
the medical. And Sarah, we appreciate your courage.
Yes.
And your courage will help set other people free.
Amen.
You have no idea.
I really hope so, because this was such a big cult and it's not talked about enough, and it's still rampant and going. I can't believe there hasn't been a documentary done on that, or Jehovah's Witness. If what you're telling me, this is so similar. So I'm hoping this will help maybe, embrace change. Yeah. And have people the courage.
It will. And you
because guess what? I was scared to do this, everybody. I was scared. I was nervous. But I can't tell you how good it feels to come on and be validated and tell my story and know I wasn't crazy.
No,
it was crazy what happened to me.
Right.
Yeah, you and Angela will be pioneers, because somebody has to start it. And a lot of times it's women. They have the courage for whatever reason. They come out, because like me and Angela said, we've talked to a lot of worldwiders, and they're vehemently defensive about their religiosity, and they won't even open to discussing anything. But to see you talk freely and clearly and got your head back on your shoulders gives them hope that there's life beyond this cult. There's life beyond the Jehovah's Witnesses, and life more abundantly without
Yes.
all these man-made restrictions and foolishness
Yeah.
and craziness. And, you
And,
know,
and I did go,
Exactly. And guess what? I'm 45 and I'm still finding out what I like to do, you know, and hobbies and crafts. And it's great. It's fun. It's
it is fun,
for the first time in my life. I'm trying to figure out my identity
right?
because I didn't really know what it was,
No,
because we're not really taught to have one. Just get married and have a kid.
yeah, shut up and
Wow.
you know,
Shut up and be an obedient wife.
right.
You know, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I always say, you know, a child is to be seen and not heard in that church, right?
Yeah.
Well,
And it was the same for a wife.
right. A wife is to be seen and not heard. Just spread your legs, cook me a meal, woman. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, you know, I'm glad that you're able to be open-minded, Dan. I appreciate that too, you know, because just from what you're telling me, it sounds like it's harder for some of the men, which that doesn't really surprise me, especially if it was set up anyway, like our cult. Because you were really, women were really looked down on. And so that doesn't just go away either, I'm assuming, for a lot of men. You know, that was something that was, you know, ingrained in them from young.
Yes, Dan had to relearn how to treat women. He was taught by an amazing
most of my teachers when I got on Jehovah's Witnesses were women. And the women told me, you're going to have to eat shit if you want to learn from me. And I was like, who the hell do you think you are? You're a woman, you know? But it was lots of women. I'd say it was probably 10 women back to back were some of my profoundest teachers. And it was humbling. And I was like, yeah, why can't women pay the bills? Why is that a man's job? Or why can't they think equally and have even maybe a better decision? And why do they seem to have it together a lot more in a lot of different areas? And so you start breaking out of these paradigms that the head of God, Jesus is Jehovah, the head of the congregation is Christ, and the head of woman is man. And you have all this dogma, and you realize it never was to be that way. A woman is a 100% equal partnership with gifts and abilities to do and to complement each other, not lord it.
Well, what a great better unit you make when you do that too, right? They really set it up for them to like butt against each other, but you could not get divorced. You know, they I think they set it up for both of them not to be happy, you know.
I agree.
Well, the husband go do whatever he wanted to, you know, he could cheat. It was something that the wife was always doing wrong. It was never the husband. And so there was just we will. I know that you guys got to get somewhere. We obviously could.
Airport. We have to go pick up someone.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Good job.
And we'll be in touch. We'll get another one set up. Thanks for everybody for listening, and thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You're beautiful.
Have a great day.
Yes.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And here.